I welcome everybody. I muted everybody, including those that are going to be joining a few minutes late. We're going to get started here today. For those that have not joined us, I'll go through just a few processes that we're going to follow for today. If you have to drop off before it ends, we are recording and we'll make it available to the same list. We are going to be holding this meeting weekly for the foreseeable future, just to keep you up to date on any latest news and developments. We do find it useful, and I hope you do too. Today, we are going to change it up a little bit. Even though we're not going to unmute everybody, that'd be a little too cumbersome. We do want to hear from you, and so after a brief introduction from Joan and myself, we'll open it up and we'll allow folks to raise their hand in a virtual way and to ask a question. I will go over that momentarily about how to raise your hand. There's a icon somewhere in here where you can raise your hand, and then we'll let you ask your questions. But because some of you are new, some of you have attended the previous sessions, the first thing we want to do is just go over some of the basics of where we are today. Here we are past Memorial Day. Everybody's anxious to get the summer underway, or really anxious to get a decision on what's going to happen. I think the first thing that we want to do here then is to, Joan, why don't you give a update or just really an overview of where we are for those that are new, haven't attended one of these sessions. Where are we today with our understanding of the rules?
Okay, welcome everyone. Where are we? Sometimes I wonder. I apologize if some of this information is not new to you that I'll be talking about just briefly, but we've been getting upwards of 50, 60 emails and phone calls a day from homeowners who still are confused about the regulations and the current rules. So just to summarize it, as most of you know, the ban on short-term rentals is continuing. Phase 1 of the reopening of Massachusetts began on May 18th, and that was in 2 sections, so that was a little confusing to some of you. Some of the businesses were allowed to open on May 18th and others not until the 25th, so this past Monday. And the governor has always said from the onset that the phase 1 would last for no earlier than 3 weeks. So phase 2, what I meant to say is phase 2 would not begin until June 8th as at the earliest. There is a possibility that he could extend it. And just like in phase 1 that had two openings, he might say that some businesses can open on June 8th and other businesses not until perhaps a week later. We do not think that it's going to extend much beyond that. The other item that is confusing to some people is this 14-day self-quarantine. That is not mandated. It is not required. It is simply voluntary, and it is travel advisory. From what we've heard from Ryan Castle, the CEO of the Cape and Islands Association of Realtors, that they are trying hard to get that disbanded and at the same time as short-term rentals can begin. It would be rather impossible to allow short-term rentals but still have a ban in place. The other item is the 32-day plus. A short-term rental is defined by the government as any stay of 31 days or less. So if someone wants to book your home for 32 days or more, they can do so legally at any time, even during the short-term ban. So I think that more or less sums it up.
Joan, what about the basic question of just, can I even book a rental today for the future beyond June 8th? That was a common question.
Yeah, and you can speak to the traffic and the number of people who are already doing that, but yes, you certainly can. I think you just have to be a little cautious with the early June rentals, um, and explain to your guests that there is a possibility that the ban could still be on for at least the first half of June. But we won't know that for a while, and we're, you know, we're just hoping that that short-term rentals could begin on June 8th or shortly thereafter.
And any indication that we'll hear before June 8th? Is it going to be like the May 18th announcement on June 8th now, or do we have any insight? Loaded question.
Yeah, it is. I have a hard time conceiving of the governor simply saying, okay, as of today, June 8th, you can start short-term rentals. I mean, it just doesn't seem, you know, people have to make plans and they've got bookings. So I would think that if the short-term rentals are included in the first part of phase 2, that we would know ahead of time.
Okay, and one of the other things that we've been talking in the past week, it kind of came out of last week's Zoom meeting, and we've seen a lot of chatter on the community Facebook group, is just about communicating with your current bookings. Anybody that you booked maybe back in January, February, or even over the past couple of months, like what is the recommendation for homeowners to communicate with their guests? What would you recommend to this group if they haven't done so already?
I would recommend that you reach out to them as soon as you can, if you haven't done so already. You don't know all the answers right now, and you can tell them that, but at least let them know what is happening. Many of them are not aware. They may not even be from Massachusetts, and so rather than have them reach out to you, it's really best to just let them know that what the situation is and what your plans are for instance, cleaning protocol and disinfecting, and make them feel welcome and that you are counting on their coming, and that you will let them know as soon as you have more information.
Yeah, and I think that's the reassurance is an important factor, because there's no one way to communicate with your guests or implement any of these new protocols, new standards. Every homeowner, as we've been talking with folks and hearing from them over the Zoom, have their own procedures in place. And some may have a little bit of want to institute a delay in their bookings or in their turnover. Some may want to keep it the same. Again, the guidelines are pending on that, but you have to talk to your guests and see what their comfort level is. Are they on the fence and thinking about canceling, thinking about would they be open to pushing out their rental, or are they really set on coming, provided that the rentals open up and guidelines can be met? So I think opening up the lines of communication with your guests, most people who have done this already, we've already heard, they get favorable responses to say, thank you for reaching out, this is where we are, this is what we're thinking. And so to have that understanding of where each one of your guests is thinking today is helpful to craft your future messages. So I want to just provide the update. I saw Beta chatted a second ago. We gave this last update last time on the traffic, and just to provide a little bit of positivity to kind of where we are. Again, the anxiousness of knowing, is there going to be a summer rental or not? I can tell you on the vacationer side of things that people that have been sitting at home, homeschooling, home from work, whatever the situation may be, they are just as anxious to get out of their homes. And we're seeing that. We're seeing what has happened in March and April basically hit the bottom of inquiries. That's now, all that pent up demand is now hitting in May. And I said last week we were hitting record numbers, and over the Memorial Day weekend, we continued to hit even higher numbers each day. In fact, yesterday, so Tuesday, was even higher. It was our record number of the most number of inquiries, most number of individual vacationers that were inquiring on the site. So there is signs that people are looking to get away. And so as people deal with cancellations, yes, there are going to be people that can't make their vacation this year, whether they're flying or whatever reason they can't come. There are a lot of people that are going to be anxious and looking forward to taking a vacation as well. So that's just something positive for us to look at. Hopefully that continues, and if rentals do open up, I would imagine that we would see yet another spike once there's confirmation. Many of the inquiries that we do see now, I see a lot of the inquiries come through. I've heard a lot of people are asking, the first question might be asking is, what's your cancellation policy, right? So they're asking that because they're not sure, rentals are banned right now. So there's an option there for homeowners to consider. We've talked about flexible cancellation policies. At this time when rentals are banned, you might want to provide some reassurance. If you're allowing a flexible cancellation, then state that on your listing. Let them know that you'll have what your cancellation policy is. If it's you can book, but I'll return your money in X number of days. That may be something that would be favorable to some of these people that are unsure of booking today. Again, once the rental opens up, hopefully that would change a little bit.
And Jim,
yeah.
I might add about the longer term bookings.
Mm-hmm.
I had a phone call with a woman last night, one of our homeowners, who called to say, what is going on? I've gotten 4 inquiries for longer term bookings, and I've never had that before. And so I just explained to her that, the kids are home from school, parents are working from home. As long as they have internet, they can work from anywhere. And so it is very desirable to be able to get out of their home where they've been cloistered for weeks and several months, and go to a vacation spot like the Cape and Islands and work and learn from there along with having fun. So you've seen the statistics, Jim, for the increase in those longer term inquiries, and it's pretty astounding. We've never seen it before, but we understand why.
Right, and you can throw in the addition of the summer camps being up in the air just as much as for folks with families with kids that typically go to summer camps. I've myself, I've seen summer camps already canceled and or making changes. So for some families, they may go a different direction this year and forego the camps and be looking to get away, whether it's longer term or just an opportunity to get away to the camp and to the Cape instead of sending their kids to camp.
And just a postscript, remember that a 32-day or more rental is excluded from the tax. So there's no lodging tax on that tenancy.
All right, well, we can keep going over a few other things, but I do want to open it up. Joan, anything else to add, or should we open it up to questions?
We can open it up to questions. I know we'll get one question about the turnover time.
Right. So we've never done this before, but I think, again, it's hard to see everybody on the call at once, so we can't see you raise your hand. There is a way to virtually raise your hand. And I believe if you click on the bottom on participants, it'll open up the participants board on the side. And at the bottom, there's a button that says raise hand. And we would see that. And Beta or Lauren, maybe you could confirm. If you click on participants down at the bottom, do you see? Yep, or here we go. All right, let's try this. I see A.E. Simmons. I'm going to unmute.
Yes, hi. A couple of questions. One is, and I don't know that there's a real answer to this, but I'd be interested to know what people think. I would tend to distinguish between a cancellation based on a government prohibition and a cancellation based on somebody's a little squeamish or they just can't manage to get there because of these unusual conditions. I tend to be very permissive this year because it's a strange year and I want to establish goodwill for the long term, but I'd be interested to know what other people think. The other question had got to the question about whether there's likely to be, and I know you can't predict, but say a 24-hour clearing period between stays, that might be best practice or guidance from the government, or it might even be mandated. Any news about that?
Joan, you want to take that?
Okay, first question about cancellations. We really do encourage flexibility on the part of homeowners. We know that it can be a real financial loss when somebody says they have to cancel and for whatever reason, but in many cases it's because of the virus. And, if you can't have them come at a later date, perhaps August or next year, next summer, and have to return the money, you probably, will establish a lot of goodwill with them, and they will be back. It's just hard to say, sorry, we made a deal, you signed the contract, and you're in your legal rights to follow your normal cancellation policy. But as you said, it's a different, is it Alan? It's a different time, and it really does call for empathy and and flexibility in terms of that. Jim, you want to handle the 24-hour?
Well, the 24-hour between bookings, that's been a hot topic, and it is, at this point, nothing has been confirmed. I think it first came to light, I believe Airbnb made it their policy, so it kind of steamrolled from there, but it has not been made as a policy in what we've seen so far. And I think we need to wait for the guidelines to see if it becomes enforced. But there hasn't been discussion. We haven't seen anything on that yet. I think the discussion has been more just about the guidelines, the protocols. What are your protocols for cleaning? And so we're waiting for the additional protocols for what has to be done for a turnover. And the expectation, I think, that we could say is that I don't think you can expect that turnovers will be the same as usual, right? There's going to be more requirements to get cleaning done per CDC or the Board of Public Health standards. So expecting a longer time frame between turnovers is probably likely. And what we've been talking with homeowners to do is to talk with your guests. Most guests are going to be understanding that they're going to need to make some arrangements that they may not be able to check in at 3 o'clock anymore. And for their own safety and for their own procedures to ensure that we can get everything done necessary to create a clean environment, we may have to push that check-in to 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night. Or maybe on the same end, you'll be looking to ask your tenants to vacate by 9 a.m. instead of 10 a.m. And you'll have to work with your cleaners on what the protocols are, but also wait for those guidelines to see how restrictive they are. I would say, going back to, if you talk with your guests and you tell that one of your guests is a little more uneasy, and to them, it would make them a little bit, put them at ease to know that they had 24 hours, I would go ahead and say, all you could do is offer them a 6-night stay, maybe at a reduced cost. But if that put them at ease to be able to come rather than the alternative to cancel, go for it. But you have to start, that's why you have to start that communication to see, where do they stand? Are they uneasy about coming in right after their guests and cleaners leave? If they are, then maybe be flexible about that. So right now, I don't think there'll be a restriction on or a requirement for 24 hours, but we'll have to see. All right, we got a lot of hands here. I'm just gonna go next in order. Brian McNally, unmute. I think you are there. Brian, are you there? Come on.
Oh, I'm here.
All right, Brian.
I think we just kind of covered a few of the areas that I was thinking about as well. We're over on the Vineyard, so we have a different animal to deal with in that, I'm already in the process of, asking all my tenants if they consider it, instead of a 10 a.m., a 3 a.m. check-in and a 10 a.m. check-out, go to like a 4 or even a 5 p.m. check-in and a 9 a.m. check-out. I looked at the website, the CDC website, and it doesn't give you a lot of information. Frankly, it just says, you might want to sanitize and disinfect hard surfaces, doorknobs, light switches, countertops, things like that. But it also says on their website, which is kind of what we've been hearing, and that they don't think this virus is lasting on hard surfaces as long as initially thought. So I just wanted to hear what your thoughts were on, I guess we covered some of that earlier, but what your thoughts are on, going off that CDC website and assuring tenants that, we're doing everything we can. In fact, I'm asking tenants if they'd be more comfortable bringing their own linens, because we do supply them, but, we'll see from there. And beyond that, I'm not sure what else we can be doing as owners to, put their minds at ease.
Brian, we have every reason to believe that there will be some kind of a checklist that the Massachusetts Board of Health might create, perhaps in coordination with the CDC, and that checklist would have steps that the cleaning crew took to clean, sanitize, and disinfect the home. And it probably is a checklist that would either be required or strongly encouraged to be left at the home, so that when the guests check in, they know what has been done.
Okay.
And so I think that would be helpful, and it would be reassuring. But as Jim said earlier, you'll have a mix of tenants. Some will feel, they'll be more cavalier about it than others. It's
right.
I know that it's going to be fine, and we've, we're perfectly comfortable. Others will be a little skittish about it and need more reassurance, and it will be like that all summer long. And so that's where the communication with your guests comes in prior to their arrival. It's just gauge their comfort level and then base your decisions on that. And it's all about flexibility and being understanding of where they are in their lives, because some of them will have been more affected by this than others. Yeah.
And that's great. I agree. And, I've seen, and actually I just booked 3 weeks in June yesterday. So that's very comforting. And I did, gave it away virtually, but I still booked it, and there'll be some money coming in versus nothing. So I guess we'll just take it one day at a time and just try to make everybody happy and, do the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, that's it. Thank
Great.
you so much for taking my Zoom call, I guess.
You're welcome.
You bet. We'll go on to the next. Connie, let me unmute you. Connie, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to say that whether or not the CDC goes with the 24-hour guidelines, as a nurse, I'm talking to my colleagues at the hospital. I think that is best for at least the people who are renting from me, my comfort level. I got in touch with all of them about 2 weeks ago, and I said, I'm going to do a 4 p.m. checkout on Saturday rather than 11 a.m. on Sunday. And I will prorate you and reimburse you for that extra night. So you're staying 6 nights instead of 7. And this is what I'm going to do in the 24 hours between guests. And I'm going to have people bring their own linens and go through the service for bed covers. And everybody said they look forward to coming to the house all year. Nobody wanted to back away. Several of them are healthcare providers that really need a break. Mm-hmm. And and I've gone over the surface cleaning with the Fury, I use the Fury's cleaning service. They've been great. So I think for me, the change of just moving it from 6 nights to 7, not providing any bed clothes at all, and reimbursing for that lost night, and then having a really good relationship with the cleaning service. So far, my feedback from the people renting is they're all coming and they're all grateful. So I don't get any negative response from them yet.
That's terrific.
And nobody said they couldn't come.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's in a different boat. You're fortunate to have people that can all make it.
Right.
We've heard plenty of people that just can't because of the distance or because of large gatherings, stuff like that. But the fact that they're all willing to come, they want to come. I mean, that undoubtedly everybody that can. We're talking about the summer, and this is what people are looking forward to, a vacation. If they can, they want to make it work. And it's not like they're leaving. Vacationers are in a different boat. We're facing this pandemic wherever they live. So being able to get away to the Cape, even though there are going to be restrictions on the Cape and the islands, people are open to that. They're understanding. So that's why we have promised for this summer to occur in a safe and responsible way.
Exactly.
And if you could
Thank you.
somehow, you're welcome. If you could somehow coordinate with your cleaners, and if you have a lot of openings, I mean, Connie, you're not in that situation, but if there are some of you out there who still have a lot of openings, so you have much more flexibility than back-to-back rentals. If since so many people are working from home, the Saturday to Saturday or Sunday to Sunday is not as concrete and the sacrosanct as it usually is. And so if 6 nights is better than not coming at all, but if somebody wants to come for 8 or 9 or 10 nights, and then you have a day in between, if you filled your summer that way, I think there'd be a lot of happy people, and you'd be probably more settled in your mind about having the time in between the tenancies. It would be a win-win for everyone.
All right, let's move on to Nancy. Unmute. Come on.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, Nancy.
I was just looking at the template today to send out to my guests, and I noticed on it that it says that we will provide disinfectant and sanitizing wipes, and I personally am having a hard time finding them for myself, so I don't think I can make that promise to people. So I was just wondering to hold these cleaning disinfectants and all that and sanitizing wipes. Is there any?
Yeah, it's just, it's a recommendation. It's not everyone is going to be able to do that or provide all of those items. We put that in there as an example of some of the things that some homeowners are going to provide if they possibly can find them. Some homeowners are a little fearful that their guests will kind of take off with them or use them all. It's hard. It's going to be hard to keep a home supplied. The first renters of the year, I always think are they have the best luck because they come into a home that's fully supplied, and then by the end of August, things start. If you don't have place to store things, or you just don't have enough. But I think we all have to do the best we can to supply as much as we can for our guests, and but you don't want to overcommit and overpromise either.
Right. I just put down that we would provide cleaning products and paper towels.
Yeah.
And so, but I can't promise disinfectants right now.
You don't. You don't have to be that specific if you think it might not be easy to do that. You certainly don't want to promise these items and then have them not there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain items that you have to expect that vacationers will bring themselves. They're going to be leaving the house, so they're going to want to bring sanitizing wipes or hand sanitizer themselves for their own sake for when they leave the house. So they clearly should not be relying on a homeowner providing anything in addition to that. So again, back to what Joan said, if you communicate what it is that you are going to do, you've communicated that and you're on the same page for what's expected.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next, Jayne Cooney. Hello, Jayne.
Hello, everybody. Today
Hi,
I had my first phone calls, 2 people. My renters tend to be people who keep coming. One girl has been here 19 years. The other family was 14 years.
Wow.
And the 19-year-old has a compromised grandson, and she's canceling. And she said, well, I hope I get my week next year. We love being there. And I offered her the option of keeping her deposit and freezing the price for next year. I said, of course, next year will cost more because of all the added cleaning that will be paid for this year. And she said, oh, absolutely, keep my check. The other fellow said he would be happy for me to keep his check if he chooses not to come. He's waiting for Charlie's press conference to see what's to come, but he's also a cancer survivor and is kind of reluctant to just jump in right now.
Mhm.
So for now, it's worked for me that I've kept the money in for them for next year, and that will freeze my rates, but it's worth it to me to keep people I know who take good care of the property coming back.
Especially
Sure.
for somebody that long of a tenant
Yes.
or a guest. You want to keep them happy, and you don't want to
Sure.
lose them over something like this.
No.
This is not your average summer, so don't lose a happy repeat guest over
Yes.
that. That's a great
Yeah.
way to do it. All right, I'm gonna move on to Cathy. Hello, Cathy. Oop, come on. Unmute seems sticky. Hold on. There we
How about
go.
that?
Hi, there you are. Hi, Cathy.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, I'm calling from Nantucket, and I was just wondering, what do you think, what are we going to do if someone gets sick with COVID-19 while they're staying in your home? And you have guests coming and
Yeah.
they'll have to stay where they are while they're quarantining. They can't leave.
Well, you don't think they would be able to leave because they'd have to get on a ferry? Is that what you're thinking?
I don't think they'll be able to travel. I don't know. If
Um,
they're sick. I mean, if they have it and they're not sick, that's
Uh-huh.
different. But if
Yeah.
they become sick, but not enough to be hospitalized, but have to stay,
Yeah,
that's one of the,
yeah, from what I've seen, I mean, you just don't know about these individual cases, but I would think if they are well enough to be able to travel, and if they're in a car, which probably they are if they're on Nantucket, that they could, go home and get health care at home and not stay in your home during their convalescence. I mean, that just doesn't, I
right.
don't think that will be the case or should be.
Mhm.
Joan, was there a recommendation in the communication template that we just posted on if that scenario was to occur, that wasn't there some wording that was upon request if that happens?
Yeah, that they should notify the homeowner immediately and they would have to leave, and probably there would be some protocol where a cleaning crew and perhaps one of these businesses that they come in with hazmat suits and go over the home in a very complete way to disinfect. But I think the homeowner would also have to let the next tenant know ahead of time and give them the opportunity to just bow out, and you cancel the whole next week. In order to maintain some time between
Right.
the tenant's departure and the next one's arrival.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hope it doesn't happen.
All right, Jeannie, let me unmute you.
Hi. Hi.
Jeannie.
I also have a rental house in Florida, and concerning the COVID and air, it only lasts 3 hours in their maximum. So I think the first protocol for everyone should just be simply open the windows, because if you get a brisk breeze, especially a lot of us are by the shore, so that the wind can just really whip through the house. And as far as I'm going to be supplying disinfectant, but was just able to get very large containers, so I'm not going to leave like huge. So I'm going to decant it into other containers and have it available for my guests. But motels and hotels are not leaving the rooms empty for 24 hours. And I understand the concern with the linens, but this, according to the CDC and protocols that have been approved, and as I said, like Florida has a gigantic short-term rental industry, and the I've forgotten the name of the organization, but they've just recommended spraying linens with disinfectants. So that's what we plan to do.
Mhm. Well, some excellent ideas, Jeannie. I have seen elsewhere recommendations for having the cleaners come in and, or even ask the outgoing guests to open up all the windows and perhaps turn on ceiling fans just to circulate the air.
Yes.
And I think that will do a tremendous good to, to air out the home. And also your idea of getting a large quantity of the disinfectant and then decanting it into smaller bottles to leave for your guests. I think that's a really good idea.
Yes, and
linens
I
are-
was
yeah.
able to source disinfectant is instead of picking a common loon, I bought a hospital disinfectant that, I've never heard the name of, and I probably could not repeat. And just off, and so it comes in a gigantic container, and I'm just decanting it, and I'm going to put COVID disinfectant on it, and plus you can also get the alcohol, the isopropyl alcohol. That's good.
Where are you
Yeah,
getting the disinfectant, Jeannie?
Well, I got it off Amazon, and it's a hospital disinfectant. So what I did is I Googled hospital disinfectant COVID, and then I made sure it was on the list, and that's how I got it.
Yep.
So I think a lot of people, they're going Lysol, they're going Clorox. So if you get, and I know there's some English named ones, I can't remember, but if you go a little offbeat, then I think you can find it. If you go to the common, everyone knows Lysol, everybody knows Clorox. Unfortunately, I already have some of those on hand because I always leave disinfectants for guests anyway.
Right.
And I'm just going to try to label it and hope those don't leave. But I'm also going to have little bottles that I have purchased at, I just bought a bunch of them at Target, and just to have every bathroom and kitchen supplied with small COVID disinfectants. So they'll have plenty in the house.
Yep. Good idea. I've heard from one homeowner who said she usually leaves a bottle of wine, and instead this year she's going to leave a nice little goodie bag or basket of disinfectant
COVID.
and the purifier, and Purell and that kind of thing.
Yes.
I think maybe I might leave both, because I think my guests might want both.
Yes.
Yes. And I have a coat rack by the door, and on the coat rack, I'm going to leave disinfectant so they can spray the thing, and a little bottle of the hand sanitizer too. So they can do both. But I really think it's overkill, because I don't think that no one has gotten COVID off a surface. But I'm going to go overkill because I think the guest will feel more comfortable. But I really think the most important thing we can do is air it out.
Sure. These are great ideas, and I think you're right. I mean, some things if maybe on the overkill side of things, but if doing something that reassures the guests, even if it's overkill, it is not, to provide some ease for the vacationer coming in. Can't underestimate or the impact of that. So it's a good ideas to have. One thing, just because we have a lot of suggestions, that question comes up all the time. Where are people getting cleaning supplies? Where are they finding it? We don't have time to unmute everybody to get a poll going here or anything like that, but we mentioned this last time. We do see a lot of good conversation happening. If you have not joined the vacation rental community group for Cape Cod and Islands on Facebook, you can search for that. It is in the links that we send out after this meeting. You could join that, and you'll see conversations amongst other fellow homeowners on various topics, and likely including where can I find certain disinfectants. All right, let's move on. Martha, unmute you. Gives it a sec. There you go. Martha, you there?
Yes,
Hi.
so it seems to me from the CDC or from various guidelines that we would be considered a small business, and I have seen that small businesses needs to post the ways that they are addressing COVID-19, not just the checklist, but to post something on the property. Are there guidelines that you have for that, for renters, or templates available? Or I know there is one very, very general posted on the CDC, but it applies to all businesses, so specifically for vacation rentals.
We have not seen anything related to vacation rentals posting. We have talked about that checklist and expect a guidelines to come out for cleaning, and would then recommend that that checklist be posted in a checklist or some sort of guidelines that small businesses, if rentals are considered that. We haven't seen that or heard about that yet. I would imagine we just don't have the answer. I would imagine we'll get that full guideline of what needs to be posted in a rental home in the coming weeks before the rentals do open.
Okay, and one other quick thing. I've seen something on the chat that people are recommending we don't leave pillows and all blankets and that kind of thing for guests.
Well,
Is
some, yeah, there's not necessarily a recommendation for that. I have seen it recommended that we take away some of the throw pillows and incidental, items that are pillow shams, for instance, that people don't necessarily need. They just make a room look pretty. But there are some, again, it's an individual thing. And if you get some questions from tentative, a little bit anxious guests who ask about that, you can say, well, we are providing pillows, and we will, and please bring your own linens if that's what your normal process is. But if you feel more comfortable bringing your own pillows, please do. I think, ideally it'd be great if you had 2 sets of everything, including pillows and blankets, and some people will do that, but that's quite a task, and it can be, pretty laborious to do that. But I think it's an individual thing, and some people will feel, they won't even think about it and just come and start enjoying your home. Others won't. So whatever their comfort level is, that's why you communicate with them. There are some people who just say, okay, I'm just removing all blankets. They don't need blankets in the summer. I'm removing all bedspreads, and removing all pillows, and asking my guests to bring them all. That's not always practical for a lot of people, especially if they're traveling with kids and a full car and all the paraphernalia that people bring, and even some food. So it's that might be a little bit difficult. Some people are replacing their normal comforters and bedspreads with something lightweight that can be laundered in between guests, and that's one way to handle it too. You just don't want someone to come in and see a bare mattress there, and it's all very individual.
Right, let's move on. Ezia, is that how you pronounce Ezia? Is that how you pronounce your name?
Etsia, but
Etsia.
everybody just calls me Z.
Z.
Calling from the lovely Vineyard today. It's so beautiful here. One of the things that I'm kind of struggling with is a waiver of some kind. I know some people say, well, how can they prove they caught it from your house, especially if you're doing everything you can possible to make it clean and disinfected for them. But then I'm hearing, you should have something in place because sometimes there are crazy people out there who want to just go after you for whatever reason. So what is this consensus on some kind of a waiver or even some kind of a agreement between?
Have you checked your lease to see what it says about indemnifying you as the homeowner?
I haven't really looked at it in a long time,
Yeah.
but I know that there was something that you guys had on the website about adding the word virus or
Mhm.
illnesses that you can't control.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how many people are actually doing this.
I think quite a few have that clause in their lease already. And our lease in the past, our sample lease has always included something to the effect that if the tenant will not hold the homeowner responsible for any health issues that occur during or after their stay. And then we just added the words including viruses. But viruses are a health issue. So
Right.
I think you were covered more or less anyway. But if you look in our cleaning blog post that is on our general COVID-19 latest updates webpage, you will see that the wording is right there that you could insert into your lease.
Okay. And can I just say quickly, thank you for all the work you guys have done. You're making my job a little easier by having all this information and supporting us.
Thank you for saying that.
Without that, I'd be lost. I really would. This is just overwhelming. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. That's our goal, is to try to make it a little easier for you. This is also challenging for everyone.
Yeah.
And Joan thought she had an easy time with a hard time with the lodging tax last year. This has not been fun for many people, for any of us. All right, thank you very much. Let's move on to Robin. Hello, Robin.
Hi, am I unmuted?
You are.
Circling back to if renters need accommodations, meaning after, say, God forbid, somebody gets sick in our house and we need to shut down the next week, is it possible to come up with a list of availability through all the other homeowners?
There certainly would be availability via the search on our site to see who is available. If you're talking about, July, August timeframe, we often have our last minute alerts where we know for certain that things are available. They're not a calendar out of date. So hopefully it doesn't come to that.
If we have to tell somebody they can't come because the previous renter got sick, it would be good for us to give them a list of, here's some other places that are available.
Yeah, I mean, there's generally there's availability. The question is going to be what sort of accommodations or what changes do they need to make? You want to find a similar home in the similar location, but they'll have to make, maybe this one's not going to have a certain amenity that you have, but again,
give them a list.
Yeah, you know what? No, it's not your job per se there, but you want to make sure that they, can transition to a different place, and no vacationer is going to want to, they'll be happier to find another place, if it again means their safety. So yeah, we can help you with that too. If that situation was ever to come, let us know. And, we're talking with other homeowners and know of last minute availability and stuff like that.
So a direct phone call to you, or we would have to do a search ourselves?
Either way, I mean, you can go on quickly and do a search and just see, 55 homes meet this criteria, or give us a call if nothing works there. Then give us a call.
Trying to be helpful to them, so
yeah, no, exactly.
They come back next year.
Exactly, it's all in an effort to get them to come back at the subsequent year.
That's it.
All right, thank you very much, Robin.
For everything you're doing.
Thank you. All right, LJ, let's unmute you. Hold on. There you go, LJ. Can you hear us? Why is this not? There we go.
Okay.
LJ, you're there.
Hi.
Hi.
There
Hi.
you go. Just wondering if there was a list or a resource of beaches and some of the restrictions that might happen. Some of the renters are concerned that because they drive over to Mayflower, maybe the parking lot would be closed. I've heard some of that, and maybe only open to like locals that could walk there. I haven't checked the resources. I was just wondering if you knew of anything that might be available for us.
As of right now, no, in a consolidated way. I've done a bunch of research myself. We just posted up onto our Cape Cod beach page a list of the guidelines that the state came out with. They're more general guidelines about your typical, 6 feet apart, 12 feet apart for blankets. Basically, your standard rules that all beach managers should be following. What we've seen though is that town by town and beach to beach, there may be different rules. And our best recommendation as of today is you have to go town to town and go to the town website.
Town to town. Okay.
I would hopefully be able to, we can start to collect some of that information. I just would expect it really to be changing quickly over the next couple weeks as people adjust to them. You see things such as Nauset Beach, for example, is going down to 50% parking, but I think I saw something like White Crest out in Wellfleet's going to 75%. I'm not sure what Mayflower is going to do, but obviously that's one of the more popular beaches in the Mid-Cape. So, I think, certainly it's the number one question that guests are going to have is what beaches are available to me. And what are and another restriction was, I think Brewster is not allowing any sort of day passes, but another town like Wellfleet maybe it was Wellfleet doesn't allow day passes, only weekly, and Brewster vice versa. They're not allowing day, just weekly, something like that. So it really is across the board right now. As we get more information, we'll certainly publish it to the homeowners, to you guys, and you can disseminate it as well to your guests.
Great. Okay, good. Thanks.
All right. Whew. That is almost our allotted time. Any other questions? We're going to wrap up shortly, but continue doing this. Hopefully we'll get more information next week. Certainly June 8th, our decision time our next decision point is less than 2 weeks away. So hopefully we'll get more information. We'll hold this meeting again. I do think this Q&A process worked well. If we have more information to provide, we'll provide more of a presentation on other information, but generally we want to hear from you on your questions and see what sort of things are working and what sort of things are not, and where do we go from here? Joan, anything else to add?
No, except if you have questions, give us a call. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. We're not able to answer the phone on the first ring like we normally do when we don't have a pandemic, but we're happy to speak with you or email you. I know it's just such a trying time, but we'll make it happen, and I think we're going to have a summer after all. We wondered about that, but especially now with the weather warming up, I think there will be a lot of anxious vacationers out there.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Tune in. We'll send out the video later. If you missed anything, we'll send out the chat as well. And stay tuned for next week. All right. Take care, everybody.
Stay well.